competency, and gender-related issues. Does everybody understand affirmative action and what that means for agencies like ours? It does mean that we do have to comply with setting cultural diversity standards and norms, which we do. And one of the things that our agency has to do is to begin with look at an individual's own personal level of awareness regarding their preconceived ideas and about races, religions, educational levels, sexual orientation, values, etc. So what our agency does is set cultural competency norms. We help to provide a safe environment for participants to share personal information, and we create shared boundaries for the discussion of sensitive information. Those are kind of our ground rules for cultural diversity. Do you believe that age and gender have an impact on how people perceive cultural differences?
Yes.
For sure. So one of the things that you do as a counselor is try to acknowledge and respect the culture of the individual that you're seeing and of any person in the organization, and so that you have the ability to work across cultures and effectively be able to treat people.
And how do you do that?
One of the things that you do...
Oh, I'm asking them.
Oh, okay,
No, I'm
sorry.
asking them.
How do you do that? How do you do that in your job?
It's important for you to be aware of your own personal biases.
Very good. Anything else?
Educate yourself outside the agency as far as like understanding different cultures.
What have we had recently about that we had some training that some of us went to, I think, here recently about culture and some things that happen that have an influence on a person's behavior because of their culture. It was just recently. It wasn't titled about culture. It was called historical trauma, but it has to do with cultural trauma. What is cultural blindness? You were talking about being aware of your own biases, but cultural blindness, individual organizations actively proffer the idea that cultural differences are inconsequential and of no importance. And cultural differences may be noted, but being colorblind is the desired state. No resources, attention, or time are devoted to cultural understanding cultural differences. That's when an organization is blind to what culture is, and they don't really regard it.
Just out there, how do you find out about someone's culture? Is it by looking at them, or, I would like to hear some discussion about that.
Dawn had said one thing. What did you say earlier?
Education.
What?
Educate.
Oh, getting education,
But,
right?
We'll have people that may look, we don't want to profile, but sometimes they may look like they're Native American, they may be Hispanic. They may look Hispanic and they may look Native American. That's just it. So I never say, I wait till they say what they are on the assessment. I never try to make an indication of what I think they are. Because you just never know.
Yeah, you're right about
What are some other ways?
You just ask them.
Ask them.
Respectfully, not like,
Yeah.
what are you?
Yeah.
NAIC asks a number of questions related to someone's heritage and culture of every client, right? If you would like to to see what those questions are, feel free to look at the ASI and the biopsychosocials.
Which is
There are
missing
many
several
such
of those
questions that are asked of
questions.
He's
everything.
missing several of those questions. Okay.
Biopsychosocial is missing
Yeah.
several of those questions.
Yeah, it is now.
Basically.
They've disappeared off of that.
I'll put
Never,
it back.
I never assume, that's the thing, never assume they are something that they may be something else. They could be completely white. And they say, well, I'm white, but I have American Indian, I'm African American, or it could be anything. So you just can't assume.
Well, and you do it, yes, you have questions on instruments as well, but in the course of your, interaction with them as a therapist or as the front desk, you find out more about them in just having conversations. Because, some of the questions on an instrument like that, I mean, what are the other things other than race? We're kind of focusing on race and ethnicity, but what are some other things that are a part of culture? We said age and gender. What else?
Sec-
Religion,
Sexual orientation.
Their family, the background.
sexual orientation, their family background. What?
Death, like how they grieve or like their grieving process.
Okay. Dove?
Death.
Oh! I'm deaf. Death. Okay, I thought you said dove, and I was like, okay.
And there is a culture also, hearing impaired.
That's right.
Where you grew up, what part of, you're from Oklahoma, but then different regions of Oklahoma are very different as well.
Military.
So military has its own way of looking at life, and so culture is very rich. It's not just the ethnicity. I mean, that's a huge part of it, but it's so deep and so complex, and it's just so varied, among different people. And to me, the only way you find that out is by interacting and asking questions.
And part of interacting is getting out and actually interacting with people, going to other events that are outside of your cultural norm.
I think one thing that gets left out of that conversation is the emphasis that's placed upon certain values. The values may be universal, but the emphasis that's placed on within different cultures is different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. I want to paraphrase a quote from Martin Luther King to end. We hate each other because we fear one another. We fear one another because we don't understand one another. We don't understand one another because we are unwilling to sit down and talk to one another. We won't sit down and talk to one another out of fear that our foolish judgments may be wrong. And just one other thing. Cultural competency is considered to be the ability to work effectively across cultures in a way that acknowledges and respects the culture of the person, organization being served.